Good morning. Welcome back to Daily Devotionals for Nurses. My name is Tola. And today I just want to round up this teaching about signs. This part of what I've been teaching about signs, asking God or requesting for a sign. And I want us to know that sometimes when you are asking for a sign, it just points to a deeper issue that you have probably not yet identified. And like I've said, you can ask God for a sign, but don't make it a requirement that you only move if God gives you a sign. When we go back to the book of Judges 6, and we read from verse 36, Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor, and if there is dew only on the floor and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said. So that was the request he first made. He wanted to be sure. Gideon wanted to be absolutely sure that what God told him was going to happen. But this tells me that Gideon was afraid. And we actually see this earlier, because when the angel of the Lord first met him earlier in Judges 6, he had to call him a mighty man of valor. That was how God saw him. But Gideon was afraid. He had said, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, I'm the least. He saw himself as this person who did not have a lot to work with. He saw himself as weak, as the least. And so God had to call him, or the angel of the Lord had to call him out, that God is seeing you as a mighty man of valor. And so that was what I was seeing, or what I am seeing as we talk about asking God for a sign. When you're asking God for a sign because you want to be absolutely sure, or if you find that you've always been asking for a sign before you move on what God is telling you to do, what is it pointing to? Is it pointing to fear? Is it pointing to shame? Is it calling out your guilt over something that you should have moved on from? But because you don't want that same experience, you're not sure how God is going to do it. So you want to be absolutely sure. And this is why I say it is dangerous to always require a sign. Because when we continue reading, Gideon actually flipped, even though God did what he asked him to do. He went back and said, okay, I just want to make sure, right? Even though he squeezed the fleece and there was a bowl full of water, he went back to God in verse 39, Judges 6:39. Then Gideon said to God, do not be angry with me. Let me make just one more request. Allow me just one more test. But this time make the fleece dry and let the ground be covered with dew. And that night God did so. Only the fleece was dry and all the ground was covered with dew. Typically, when you find yourself asking for signs, it just becomes a crutch. It becomes something you will always ask for at every single step of the way. You may find out you don't move unless you see a sign. You may find out you don't carry out God's instructions unless you are absolutely sure. But we know that faith requires you to move even though you have not seen the results. Faith requires you to trust God. Faith requires you to put actions in motion, requires you to put your seed in the ground, even though you don't know what your return is, right? I always say, for example, in entrepreneurship, if you're starting a business, even if that business fails, like my first business failed, the lessons that I learned from that business, I took it, right? And I am using those lessons now. So even though it seemed like what God had told you before, maybe it failed, maybe it did not work out. And now you get anxious when God gives you an instruction, when God gives you a strategy, because of your past, because of your past experiences, encounters, and you're saying, now I just have to be absolutely sure. Maybe God is saying, go back to school. Maybe God is laying on your heart about family, about marriage, about business, about leadership. And you're like, no, Lord, I have to be absolutely sure. Because the last time I was a manager, it was so hard. It was so difficult. This is what I experienced. And because of that, you're reluctant to take back up that mantle of leadership that God has laid on your heart. Today, I want you to try again. Today, I want you to say, yes, Lord, I choose to trust you. One exercise I usually ask us to do is, where is my fear hiding? Meaning, where is fear hiding in this decision? If God is telling you to step back into management, into leadership, and you list out all the things you've experienced before, and you write out your faith statement, and where it was previously hard, and you say, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. His burden is light, his yoke is easy, and you write out your faith statement. And you say, he surrounds me with favor as a shield, according to the word of the Lord. And you write out your faith, you counter each fear statement with faith. That's how you do it. So you don't need another sign. You just need to trust God, believe in him, and move.